Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. In our previous video, we have discussed different aspects of data frame. So we understood how do we create a data frame, how do we check the list of the data frames, how do we rename or change or drop the data frame. And this is the continuation of the same video. We are going to use the same do file. So if you haven't watched the previous video, it's highly recommended that you go back and watch the first part of this series of the videos that we cover related to data frame. So in this video, we are going to continue on the data frames. Firstly, we are going to discuss the copy frame copy command, and what this frame copy command would do is it would copy the whole data set to a new frame, to a new data frame. So if I can quickly show you the list of the data frames that we currently have, and that's coming from the previous video. So that would be frame dir. You can see that we have these frames. Here we have a data frame called results. It do have 74 observations and 12 variables. What if I wanted to perform certain analysis on this or certain data management on this data, but at the same time I want to keep the original copy intact just in case I needed that and wanted to go back towards that original data. What I would like to do is I would like to create a new data frame and copy this whole data to that new data frame. The way is to use frame copy command. We write the command name, then the old data frame that we want to copy, and then the new data frame name. So this data frame should not be created. It should be the new data frame, right? So you can see that we do have a results, which is the old data frame that we want to copy. And this new results, you cannot find it in the list of the frames directory. That is because this frame had not been created previously. So as you can see, the command had been executed, and if I can quickly show you the results, the list of the frames, then you can see that new results with the same number of observations and variables had been created. Now what if I executed this command again, that is to get the fresh copy of the same data, let's just say. It would throw an error, and what it is saying that this new results data frame had already been created. It is similar to if you had already saved a data file with a name, and if you were going to rewrite that file again, it would throw an error and you would have to write a replace option, or if with any other files that you were going to save, the Stata would throw an error that that specific file is already existing in your folder. So what we do is we use the similar approach. We use the comma replace option. So this time I'm going to use the same command but with the replace option, and it would create the new data frame. Remember, the data frame should not be created, and if you were to rewrite on the same data frame, then you would have to use the replace option. Okay, and let's move to next command, which is frame put. Now in this frame copy would work if we were to copy the entire data set. But what if we were to copy a certain part of the data, certain subset of the data, certain variables of the data frame to another data frame? For that, we would have to use frame put. But before that, let me create a few variables. Let's create weight 2 and length 2 variable. Let's generate them. And these variables are meaningless, but just for the demonstration purpose, I am creating them. Its weight 2 would be equal to weight divided by length, and length 2 would be equal to length divided by weight. So if I create these variables, you can see them, they appear over here. Now I want to copy just the 3 variables, that is price, the length 2 variable, and the weight 2 variables into a new data frame, small data called. This would be the name of the new data frame. And if you can see from the list of the frames, this new small data frame had not been created previously. So frame put, list of the variables, it can be single or multiple variables, comma into, that means which frame do I want this data to be copied, and then the name of the frame. This should be the new name, and the frame should not have been created previously. So let me show you from the directories. The frame had been created. It do have 3 variables but 74 observations. And let me take you towards that frame change. Okay, and you can see that we have price, length and weight in this new data frame. What if we already have ABC data frame and I wanted to put length 2 and weight 2 into ABC data frame? Can I do that? It would throw an error. So as with the frame copy command, for the frame put command, we should give a name of the new data frame. But in frame copy command, we could have used replace option, but in frame put, we do not have that replace option. There is another example where not just specific variables, but specific observations can also be transferred, copied from one data frame to another data frame. So we use frame put, name of the variables that we want to copy. Then we use the if condition, where we say that if price is greater than 5,000, only copy these 3 variables and do not copy all the observations of these 3 variables, just the observations where price is greater than 5,000. And where do we need to copy them? We need to copy them into small data 2. And this data frame do not already exist in our list. So let me show you. This data frame had been copied, and instead of 74 observations, we only have 37 observations. So the syntax is we write frame put var list, then into the new data frame. Lastly, we have seen if we want to drop one by one a data frame, how do we drop them? We write frame drop and then the name of the data frame. But what if we wanted to clear all the data frames in our memory, in our system? We would use frame reset. If I click on this and frames directory, you can see that all data frames had been deleted, and there is just one data frame that is left, that is default data, and it do not have any data at all. We can also use clear frames that would do the same task, or we can use clear all, but it is not specifically for the frames. It would clear everything, not just the data frames. Okay, moving forward, we would work with one more way, that is frame post. And with frame put, we can only copy specific variables to a new data frame, but in frame post we can copy observations, variables into an existing data frame. So let's just say we want to run a t-test on different variables, right? And a nice way would be to take the results of all these analysis, these t-stats or regressions, and copy them into a new data frame, and then we can do multiple tasks with those data frames because we would have clear results in our hand. So it is a nice way of building your results table. For that, let me create a data frame, and we have already seen how to create data frame. And let me have 3 variables in this data frame: t-test, t-value, and the p-value. Sorry, this t-test will be the name of the data frame, and these 2 would be the name of the variables that would not have any observations. So if I can show you from the directory, we have this. There are 2 variables, but 0 data, 0 observations. And let me import a data because we have reset our data. So we have a data over here. Now let me perform a t-test on the price. T-test price is equal to 0. And we know that the Stata saves these results into some macros, and we can get the results from those macros. So here we have RT that stores the T statistics, right, which is stored over here. And then we have RP, which would store the P value, which is right over here, right? And I want to copy all these 2 observations into this t-test data frame under my variable names. So I do use the frame post, then write the name of the data frame. It is a t-test that I have created with 0 observations. And then I write the observation that I want to copy within the parenthesis, but in the same sequence that our variables are. So if I write over here the value of the t value, then it would copy this t value into this variable, right? Let me also perform this t-test on the MPG and copy these values to our t-test data frame. And let me quickly show you how this data frame looks like. So we have frame change, t-test, and edit. And you can see that the first t-test value was 17 and the p-value was 1.56. And the second was 31 and the p-value was 0.000. Okay. So that is a nice way, and I usually do this when I'm working with t-tests or event studies, right? Let me reset this data frame again because I want to demonstrate a concept of linking frames. So as we can merge data with different files, we can merge data within different frames. It is called linking frames or link frames. So I have here with me two data sets. One is the equity data of different firms. So this is the equity data. We have different firms, different years, and we have a number of shares and equity data in this file called equity.dta. And then we have another file that is called total assets, and it contains the data of total assets. Let me open this file. Let me show you the data view. And this is the same different firms and different years, but now we have total assets and sales data. Okay, so we have seen this data set, and now we would want to link these data sets because we want to perform analysis, and some data is in the equity file and the rest of the data is in the total assets files. Okay, so let's import the equity file in our default frame. So if I can show you the frame directory, we are in the default frame. We have these variables over here, and let me rename, instead of default, let me give it a meaningful name. Let's call it equity data. So we use frame rename the default frame into equity data frame. The name had been changed, right? And now let me create a frame called asset data that would contain the asset data, and let me import this total assets data within this asset data frame that I have just created, right? So we have two data sets, both having different but related information, and now I want to link. Let me just sort this first on here. This wouldn't be needed in a few seconds. Okay, now first task would be to link these two data sets. We would not copy the data, but we would just link the data, because before copying the data, we need to link it. So we use frlink, frame link, and we have only two options. Either we can do one-to-one or many-to-one link. And if you are not familiar with what one-to-one or many-to-one link is, it is similar to the one that you use when you merge different data sets, right? And there is a video on merging different data sets on my YouTube channel. Do watch it. It would give you a quick idea. Okay, so we merged one-on-one based on symbol and year, and the data would be merged with the which frame. It would be the assets data. So currently we are in the equity frame, data frame. We want to create a link with the assets data frame. So the link had been created, and there is a new variable. But what does this variable contain? It contains the row number. So what this means is that AASM is the symbol, it is the firm name. It's 2001. Equity data is over here, but the assets data is in the 37th row of the assets data, right? Assets data frame. So now I want to import the sales variable. There are two variables in that data frame. Let me show you. So we use frame assets data and describe. So we have two variables over here, total assets and sales. I want to copy this, or I want to merge this sales data with my current equity data. So we write the fr get frame get command, then write the variable name that I want to copy. I want to copy it from the assets data, but before this link should be created, otherwise it would throw an error. So now you can see that the sales had been imported and the relevant data had been placed in the correct positions. Okay, and the syntax of frget is we write the frget, then the new variable name. If we were to rename it, then we can just, if we do not want to rename it, we just write the name of the variable. If we want to rename in the same command, then we write the new name and then the variable name. So it would be, let's say, new sales equal to the old variable name, right? And that would still bring the same data, but with the new variable name. Okay. One thing, let's just say, what if I dropped this observation from the assets data? So let's drop this. So frame assets data and drop in 37. So that would drop the 37th observation, the whole row, 37th row. So that row had been dropped from the assets data, and if I go towards my data, but it still shows that there is a link and the relevant data is in 37 data, but technically the 37 data would be different data set, and the whole arrangement had been destroyed. But Stata is wise enough to understand this. If I again let me drop this let me drop these two variables. If I again import the sales data, right, it would throw an error and it would say that very few observations and you need to type fr link rebuild asset data to update the linkage. So the linkage had been destroyed, you need to rebuild the link. So we use fr link. You would get this command from here, rebuild total assets. We just write, copy paste this command over here. Okay, I have given it a wrong name. It should be assets data. Okay, now I rebuild the link and the link had been rebuilt. Now I can import the data, and what would happen with that specific row where I have dropped that data, it would show us a missing value. Okay. Lastly, what I can do is I can use fr val, that is the same as fr get, but somewhat a different syntax. I can generate a variable called ta, but again, before using fr val, we need to create a link. So ta should be equal to what? It should be equal to fr val. We use this function. It is not a command, it is a function. Then within parentheses, it requires two parameters. One, what is the link that you are going to use? I'm going to use assets underscore data link. And which variable do you want to import from the assets data? I want to import total assets. So I already imported sales, but now I want to import total assets. So this is another way of importing the data. But again, because we have deleted this row, we do not get any observation for that. So thanks for watching this video. Do subscribe to this channel and do hit the like button.